Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 19 of the anime series Arslan Senki, or the heroic legend of Arslan. And this episode was utmost compelling to me in that we're finally sort of, tripping left field again, calling back on Silver Mask, Guiscard, the Lusitanian faction versus Bowden, his Temple Knights, the entire sort of religious faith faction, if you will, and all of that burgeoning infighting that we left off with as Arslan and his posse were going to take on the Centurions, and we were left to wonder what exactly was going to happen with Lusitania, and was it falling apart, in fact. And we're seeing the overreachingness of the sort of Yaldabaoth faith as commanded by Bowden. It's even impacting Innocentus, Guiscard's, sort of lordly brother, in that he wants to renew his own faith. I don't know if this is an answer to his temptations toward the, as they say, heathenous Tehimine or not. That remains to be seen. But for whatever reason, that influence is affecting Lusitanians even still, even though Bowden has been sent packing, and his entire Temple Knights faction has taken up this stronghold of Zabul Castle, this just gorgeous, it's absolutely beautiful, this castle sitting atop like a craggy spire, a mountainous spire, as they say. And it absolutely looks, captivating to me. I know there are places like that in the world. I would love to see more of them, but depicted within the series, even in animation form. It just looks captivating as all hell. But of course, who but Silver Mask can Guiscard go to and say, look, we have a problem with this Bowden guy. We have gotten rid of him through a ruse and all that kind of stuff, but he's still presenting a problem. We can't keep in contact with our Lusitanian homeland. He's probably, stifling that in some manner and everything. And I need your help. I need you to help me snuff this guy out and his Temple Knights once and for all in one fell swoop. And of course, Silver Mask takes up this call, but not before actually seeking the consultation of Souma, who is a character I was very much happy to see back in the series. I feel like this episode was in two parts. Part of it was that whole oncoming battle between, of course, the Parsian troops, 30,000, I might add, that, Silver Mask accumulates for this cause to go against the Temple Knights. But I feel like that battle with the Temple Knights was only one part of the episode. The other part was refamiliarizing ourselves with Souma and Kubard and, these sort of wandering soldiers that had been part of Andragoras' Parsian faction at the start of the series, these very noble, honorable characters, and I absolutely am captivated by them as well. I mean, one thing I love about this series, speaking about the Temple Knights and the Yaldabaoth faith, I love this series, sort of commentary on organized religious beliefs and mindsets, and the brainwashing, the superstitious nature, the being very much at your guns at a moment's notice and everything like that, and the negative influence it can have in just warping people's minds. As somebody who is a nonconformist in real life, offline life, I'm very much appreciative of that, because I don't conform to any one religion, and I find a lot of negatives surrounding the majority of them. That isn't to say there isn't beneficial things and moralistic things you can take that can, when applied to your life, benefit your life. But for the most part, we're seeing the just absolute tyranny that it breeds, and the sort of lust for power and all that kind of stuff. It's very much the antithesis of what a faith is supposed to be in most cases, and very much in this case. And but again, being able to be reintroduced to Sam and seeing him mulling over how exactly he's come to side with Hermes in this cause, the idea that he is the legit successor to the Parsian throne, and he's, championed his own loyalty for Silver Mask for that fact. Whereas Kubard, he's very much the wanderer, the nomad, the vagabond, whatever you want to call him what you will, Metallica reference. And I love both of these characters, though. What I really love about being reintroduced to them is the idea that, now there are shades of gray for me as a viewer, because I am very much with Arslan and his posse. But when you have these noble characters, these loyal characters and honorable men like, Souma and Kubard, well, suddenly it's kind of like, well, I like them too. I think they are in sort of the right mindset, but they're not necessarily siding with the right cause, or at least Souma isn't by the end of the episode. Kubard remains to be seen. He could be a wild card in a sense, because he kind of just goes off by the end, and he has some words talking about, well, who's going to be there on Arslan's side if you're here on, Silver Mask's, and vice versa. But I really like these two characters. They are standout characters to me. even in Psalms going to Andragoras in the cells, in the dungeon, and being like, look, sir, I need to understand better what happened. Did you set out to kill your brother? Did you set out to kill Hermes? Was this all you were doing? And of course, Andragoras' malevolent side is what comes to the fore. He doesn't give him a straight answer at all. You know. And then also we see, as part of Silver Mask's faction, just kind of as a footnote, Xandis is back in the frickin' story. Like, we were all left wondering, did he die when he fell off the cliff face and everything with the arrow in him? And we mostly speculated, no, he probably still alive, whatever. But it's almost like, oh, by the way, here he is. And then he's terrassing through this battle between the Temple Knights and these 30,000 Parsian troops. And, of course, Silver Mask's faction of Parsians wipes the floor with the Temple Knights. I think it said they killed like 2,000 of them left on the battlefield, and the rest of them retreated back into Zabul Castle where they're hiding out. And so the next move for Silver Mask is, well, we're going to make one more decisive blow. We're going to take them out once and for all. And he's asking for the, you know, loyalty of Sam. He professes it. And you've got Kubard there, who, because he is that, you know, wandering sort, he's gotten used to wine, women, and song and all this stuff, and not having to succumb to a leader or a faction, even though he enjoyed being on the battlefield. He doesn't necessarily want to side with Silver Mask. I think he probably has an idea. He's probably gauging the idea that maybe this isn't the right side to be on. I don't know. You know, that's my own speculation. But in any case, he asks Silver Mask, you know, why is it you're so hot to ascend the throne? Why do you want to reclaim the throne so badly? And Hermes just sort of passes it off with, well, I want to restore peace. Yeah, right. He wants power. You know, if he was an honorable soul, it would be much less, you know, hard to see the good versus evil. But I like, again, that's why I like the introduction of Sam and Kubard, because suddenly there are shades of gray. It's not just the black and white good versus evil story, Arslan versus Silver Mask and that kind of thing. And Kubard very much voices the concern as a viewer, if you've been sticking with the series, the idea that, well, you know, first we had Arslan going off and dealing with the Sindurans and having to deal with that. But then what does he have to go back to after that? He's got to still deal with the Lusitanians. And in this case, Kubard is saying to Sam, you know, we have our Parsian/Lusitanian faction going up against Bodin's Temple Knights and all that kind of stuff. What do we have to look forward to after that? Well, then we got to go back and deal with the Lusitanians and or the infighting that will be burgeoning in the two, you know, multiplied Parsian factions that will be going head to head and all this stuff. And is it all really worth it? You know, whose cause is the truest? It doesn't even come into Kubard's own mindset. It's just like, is it all worth it? All this, you know, fighting and blood loss, you know, lives lost and all this kind of stuff. And so it was an absolutely just moving, captivating episode for me, because I really loved those characters. And again, now it's going to be the shades of gray thing where it's like, even though I'm championing Arslan's posse and his faction, because lest I forget, by the end, of course, we see Arslan at the ripe old age of like 14 and a half as the crown prince of Pars in their Peshawar stronghold. He's put into, you know, production these two documents. One is basically calling all Parsian troops, all of the Parsians willing to fight for their cause and go up against Lusitania and everything like that, come to our stronghold in Peshawar Citadel. You know, this is our new home for the time being until we can amass troops and forces big enough to take back, of course, Ekbatana, the sort of seat of power for the Parsian country and everything like that, or kingdom, whatever you want to call it, as well as a document issuing the abolishment of slavery, you know, should he successfully ascend the throne. And this is absolutely monumentous. So it's hard to, you know, of course we're for Arslan because he is on the side of good. He is the right side to be on, in a sense. But then when you have these other characters who are noble, who are honorable, and are perhaps just siding out of convenience with those who they think the most notable at the moment, but necessarily aren't making the right choices, those shades of gray and not having just a clear-cut, decisive, black and white, good versus evil thing. That's what I love about where we are as we leave off with this episode. And it was just absolutely compelling, captivating, all of those superlatives I could say ad nauseum. You know, thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I am just absolutely drawn in by the idea that it's not just clear-cut anymore, that, you know, you don't necessarily, you have this aspect of feeling sympathy toward both sides or both factions, or at least troops within those factions, and it's that much more compelling for it. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 19 of Arslan Senki. If you've seen it, if you enjoyed it as much as I did. If not, why not? Let me know in the comments below. Love having the conversation with you guys. We can agree to disagree on all things, anything under the sun, but I love having the conversation. So yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.